The English Teacher YouTube channel, videos for success in English 103 and English 104.
Welcome back to the English Teacher YouTube channel. I'm here with a quick video to hopefully walk you through how to choose your research topic for the informative research essay a little bit more smoothly and take that giant task and break it down into parts that may be useful for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull us back to the prompt for English 103 for that informative research essay. I'm also going to pull up some resources that are available to you on Moodle. We're going to talk a little bit about research question webbing. We're going to talk about some examples for research questions and how that ultimately leads you to your topic selection worksheet. Okay, but we're going to focus on those first three to start with. So in terms of choosing your research topic for an informative research paper, there's a couple things that you need to make sure that you are aware of. For one, it has to be a topic that interests you. You're going to be spending a great deal of time writing this paper, so it has to be something that you have interest in, and it also needs to be something that you have a little bit of personal knowledge about. You don't want to start from complete scratch. However, if we look up above on that prompt, you'll see that you're not able to write this paper by just relying on personal knowledge alone. That doesn't mean you don't want any of it, but you need some so that then you can use that to then get started by finding more information. You also want to make sure that you are going to be able to present that information in an even-handed way or an unbiased way, and that you'll be able to find trustworthy and reliable sources. All of those are very important to being successful on this paper. So that means you're going to need to be able to find things on the web. You're going to need to be able to find things in the databases. Okay, that's where your information will come from for the topic that interests you as you accumulate more things like key terms and examples and ideas that help you inform the reader or give the reader some information about the topic that you've chosen. So you want to make sure right off the bat that you're able to find something that is interesting to you, that you can have some level of knowledge about, and that means that you will then be able to generate some search terms. You'll also be able to generate some questions about a topic. So that brings me over to that worksheet or to that mapping that is available to you that looks like this. Okay, you'll notice that what this is asking you to do is generate a bunch of questions about your topic. And so we've got a bubble in the middle for the topic and the research question, the main research question. And then around that, you have your 5 bubbles for really 5 more questions that help lead back to your main research question. And then off of each of those 5 bubbles, you have some lines. And those lines are ultimately where you would put key terms or some knowledge that you're finding or that you're having already. So that's kind of a blank version of that. So let me show you one that is a little bit filled out using some of my interests. So it tells you a little bit about me. So if I click on this one here, you'll notice that really my topic, I want to focus on Batman. Can you focus on Batman and comic book characters in the informative research paper? Absolutely. Can you focus on places? Sure. Can you focus on historical events? Absolutely. Can you focus on pop culture events or pop culture ideas? Sure. If you want to look into films, look into films. If you want to look into World War II, look into World War II. If you want to look into different types of weapons, then do that. Different types of makeup, then do that. If you want to look into fashion, all of that stuff is fair game for this paper, which makes it exciting because there's so many different things that you get to choose between. You just have to find something that interests you and that you can ask some questions about and find resources for, reliable resources. So if I start off with just saying, you know what, I want to write a paper about Batman because I love Batman and I know I'm going to have to be a little unbiased when I present my information about him, but nonetheless, I want to talk about Batman, and I want to know why I keep seeing a recreation and a reusing of Batman in movies and comics, and the comics are still going on. Why is that a thing? Okay, because I want to ultimately find that information out and then relay that to the reader, give the reader that information. So if we look up above in the bubble that is vertical of this, one of the first questions that I might ask myself is the what. What are the traits of Batman? Because this leads us back to that primary question of potentially why he's being reused and recreated. So, I mean, we could think, okay, Batman, he doesn't have superpowers, but he has a lot of money, good fighter, right? All of these things become traits that I can search. So traits is the main term that you would start looking for, and you would write some of those traits off in the lines here. Well, then I might start to think about, okay, well, I'm going back to the recreating and reusing. So I have to ultimately know how many times he's been recreated or he's been used in film. So I need to think when he was created originally. Well, I know he's part of the DC universe, so I need to do a little research on the DC universe. So maybe DC goes out here. And so you start creating more and more terms for yourself and more avenues for you to continue searching. Well, then I might also think to myself, okay, he's popular. Who first created Batman? And now, what are some of the other versions that are ultimately super popular? How would I then start to research those? I might start to get into film. I might start to look at the comic book iterations of Batman. And then I've got to start to think a little bit more about Batman in terms of where he's located. So we know, okay, my personal knowledge of Batman comes in here, and I see Batman is located in Gotham City. So he's also appeared in different places, but that's his city, right? So I might want to start searching, what makes Gotham City a place that needs a superhero. So then I could look up above here to where it says, why is Batman such an incredible hero, even though he doesn't have superpowers? So he's been part of the Justice League, right? The Justice League has some of the most powerful superheroes in the DC universe. Well, you'll notice my nerd comes out here because this is exciting to me and I'm able to ask these types of questions. And ultimately, in order to be able to do the topic selection worksheet, you've got to have an interest in your topic. You've got to be ultimately thinking to yourself what sources you can find about it. So we start to look at that worksheet here, what sources you can find about it, what particular aspects do you plan to research, and you'll notice all of those start to play out in that webbing document that I showed you, and that is available on Moodle. Okay, so hopefully you find this helpful, but the main takeaways here are make sure that you're asking yourself questions about a topic that you truly are interested in, that you have some level of knowledge about, and ultimately that you can write about in an unbiased way as you find those resources in the databases and on the web. Okay. As always, if you have questions, make sure you reach out to your instructor and know that your research librarian is a fantastic resource for this paper. So don't hesitate to reach out to them as well. Okay, guys.